The twin suns were already sinking behind the jagged cliffs when Ethan Ward stepped through the shimmering gate of Nerith, a quiet alien settlement built from smooth blue stone. His boots left dusty prints on the glowing road as he pulled a small case behind him. He wasn't looking for trouble, only a place to rest. But the moment he appeared, the quiet street came alive. 3 women stood waiting at the entrance, each one very different, and none of them hiding their curiosity. The first wore a black uniform with silver lines running down her arms. Her silver hair shimmered in the fading light, giving her an almost halo-like glow. Her eyes studied Ethan like a puzzle. The second stood beside her, taller and sharper, dressed in a tight blue bodysuit that seemed part armor, part display. Her stance was confident, her arms crossed like a soldier's. The third was softer, dressed in flowing white fabric that moved with the wind. She stayed a little behind, her eyes calm but watchful. Ethan stopped a few steps away. He'd seen many species before, fought beside and against them, but this attention felt different. Well, he muttered under his breath. So much for sneaking in quietly. The silver-haired one stepped forward, her voice smooth and musical. Welcome, traveler. You must be the human from the outer colonies. I am Lyra, the governor of Nerith. We were told you'd stay one night. Her lips curved into a faint smile. It was friendly, but something about it made his instincts tighten. I just need a bed, Ethan said. Nothing fancy. The woman in blue moved closer. I'm Kale, head of security, she said flatly. Her eyes scanned him up and down. The travel-worn jacket, the combat boots, the scar at his jaw. We don't get many visitors here. Especially not human men. Ethan glanced around. The street was full of faces now. All women, all with the same silver-blue skin. Not a single man in sight. That normal? He asked quietly. The 3 exchanged looks. Lyra laughed softly. You notice quickly. Nerith is unique. The males of our kind were sent away 2 cycles ago for government labor projects. We've learned to manage things ourselves. The quiet one in white stepped forward. I'm Alara, she said softly. I manage the guest quarters. Your room is ready if you'd like to rest. Ethan nodded, grateful. Appreciated. But before he could move, Lyra's hand brushed lightly against his. Let me show you around first, she said, her silver eyes glinting. Our town may be small, but it has its charms. Kale's voice cut through the air. It's protocol, Governor. We escort all visitors. Security check. Ethan recognized an order when he heard one. Lead the way, he said. They started walking down the main path. Blue crystal towers rose around them, glowing faintly in the dusk. Alien vendors paused mid-sail, workers froze at their stations, and every gaze followed the lone human. He could feel it. Whispers behind him, soft laughter, curious stares. You're causing a scene, Lyra said with an amused smile. Not my fault, Ethan muttered. Guess I'm the new attraction. Kale's lips twitched. You are the only male most of them have seen in years. Alara added quietly. Our society depends on balance, emotional and biological. The absence of males has changed things. Ethan looked at them, unsure how to respond. He'd seen battlefields, alien worlds torn apart by war. But this kind of attention, was something else entirely. They turned a corner, entering a wide plaza filled with glowing plants and fountains that hummed with soft light. More women appeared, pretending to work while stealing glances. A few smiled shyly. One even waved. Ethan sighed, starting to feel like the last steak at a hungry buffet. Lyra laughed, a soft musical sound that made his pulse jump. Don't worry, human. We don't bite. She paused, her eyes gleaming. Unless invited. Kale rolled her eyes, but said nothing. Alara only blushed. By the time they reached the guest house, the sky had turned deep violet. The structure was simple but elegant, with wide windows and glowing panels that illuminated the entrance. Alara unlocked the door and gestured politely. Your room is ready, Captain Ward. Ethan hesitated before stepping inside. He could feel dozens of unseen eyes still watching him from the street. Is it always like this? He asked. Lyra smiled faintly. You're a novelty, Ethan. Most here have never seen a human, and none have met a man in over 2 years. The air between them thickened for a moment, curious, cautious, and charged with something he couldn't quite name. Ethan adjusted his case strap and exhaled slowly. He had wanted peace, silence, maybe a soft bed. But as he looked at the 3 alien women standing in the doorway, each watching him with very different intentions. He knew one thing for certain. Tonight, rest was the last thing he'd get. Ethan didn't sleep. He sat near the wide window of his guest room, staring out at the glowing streets of Nerith. From this height, the city looked peaceful, blue lights flickering like ocean waves, the faint hum of alien music drifting through the air. But beneath that calm surface, he could feel something else. Expectation. Everywhere he went, every word those women spoke, carried the same quiet energy. Curiosity mixed with something deeper. When the door chimed softly, Ethan straightened. Alara stood there, dressed in white again, her voice gentle. The council wishes to invite you to the evening meal. It's important to our culture. He almost said no. He'd spent enough nights as someone's curiosity on other worlds. But something in her eyes, that mix of sincerity and exhaustion, made him pause. Fine, he said finally. Lead the way. They walked through the winding streets as the twin moons rose. The air shimmered faintly with blue mist, and alien lanterns floated above them like fireflies. Women everywhere stopped to look, some smiling, others whispering to one another. You weren't kidding about attention, Ethan muttered. Alara smiled faintly. You have no idea. For many here, you're the first reminder of what balance felt like. He frowned. Balance. She hesitated. You'll understand soon. The Hall of Gathering stood at the heart of the city, a circular dome made of glass-like stone that caught the moon's reflection. Inside, dozens of alien women sat at curved tables, their skin glowing faintly under the soft amber light. The moment Ethan entered, the room went silent. Lyra rose first, graceful as always. Welcome, Captain Ward. We are honored by your presence. Kale stood beside her in full uniform, ever the sentinel. You've drawn quite the crowd, she said dryly. I'm noticing, Ethan replied, scanning the room. 3 elderly women sat at the far end, the Council of Nerith, if he had to guess. Their eyes followed him with the same mix of curiosity and caution. Lyra motioned him forward. Before we eat, there is a small custom, a ritual of harmony. It's meant to align our energies before sharing food. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Harmony ritual? It's harmless, Alara assured him softly. It helps us connect. He looked at the dozens of expectant faces. And I suppose saying no would be rude. Very, Lyra replied with a teasing smile. With a quiet sigh, Ethan allowed himself to be guided to the center table. Lyra took his hands gently, her skin warm, almost electric. Alara joined on his right, Kale on his left, her grip firm and steady. Around the room, others followed, forming circles of joined hands. Close your eyes, Lyra said softly. Breathe. Feel the flow between us. Ethan obeyed, half out of politeness. At first, it was nothing, just the faint warmth of their touch. Then something changed. A low hum filled the air, and a strange tingling spread through his arms, crawling toward his chest. The room seemed to pulse, light shimmering in waves. He opened his eyes and froze. Where their hands met, a faint golden light had appeared, soft at first, then brighter, spreading between the joined palms like liquid fire. What the hell? It's working, Lyra whispered. Your energy, it's compatible. All around them, the same thing was happening. The women's hands glowed faint blue, but his connection burned gold. The difference was impossible to ignore. Kale's expression softened, replacing suspicion. That's not normal, she said quietly. Alara's eyes widened, reflecting the glow. It means your presence is stabilizing us faster than we expected. Ethan stared at their linked hands, trying to make sense of it. You mean just standing here is helping you? Not standing, Lyra said. Sharing. Connection strengthens our biology, emotional, physical, even chemical. When our males were taken, that balance began to collapse. You might be the key to restoring it. Ethan tried to laugh it off, but his voice came out uneven. That's a lot to put on one man. Perhaps, Lyra said softly, but your kind has a history of doing the impossible. The room grew quieter, every gaze fixed on him. He could feel it, that pull again. A strange weight of hope he hadn't asked for. The glow faded slowly, leaving behind a warm calm that settled in his chest. Lyra released his hand last, her eyes never leaving his. You did well. Few outsiders handle the harmony so naturally. Guess I'm a fast learner, Ethan said, though his voice was more uncertain than proud. They ate afterward, strange fruits that shimmered like glass, bread that steamed in the cool air, drinks that tasted faintly of cinnamon and metal. The laughter returned, softer this time. For a brief moment, Nerith felt alive again. When the meal ended, Kale approached him with a cup of glowing liquid. "It's called Luma Spirit," she said. "A drink of honor." Ethan took a sip and coughed. "That's strong." Kale smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. "It's supposed to be." Lyra and Alara joined them, standing close. The air between them hummed again with that strange, invisible energy. "You feel it too, don't you?" Lyra asked softly. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, something's happening here. I just don't know what it means." Alara looked up at him, her voice almost a whisper. "It means your arrival wasn't an accident. It means you were meant to come." Ethan didn't know whether to laugh or be afraid. All he wanted was rest, a place to disappear for a night. But as the alien women watched him with eyes full of wonder and quiet need, he understood something deeper. This wasn't chance. It was the beginning of something far more complicated. And whether he liked it or not, humanity had just become part of their survival. The night outside Nerith was calm, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the calm was hiding something. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling of his guest room as alien moonlight spilled through the glass panels. The air hummed faintly, not from machines, but from the strange energy still lingering in his body after the harmony ritual. He felt different, clear-headed, alert, almost like his blood was charged with quiet thunder. When the door chimed again, he already knew who it was. Lyra entered, graceful as ever, her silver hair falling over her black uniform. She didn't knock this time, just walked in with the confidence of someone who always got answers. "You couldn't sleep either," she said softly. Ethan sat up. "You people have an odd way of saying goodnight." Her lips curved faintly. "We have an odder way of surviving." He frowned. "That sounds like the beginning of a confession." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "You deserve honesty. The harmony ritual you joined tonight, it wasn't just tradition. It was necessity." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Go on." She moved closer, the glow from the window painting her skin in shades of silver blue. "Our biology depends on certain signals, pheromones, hormones, and energy frequencies that are normally balanced by both genders of our kind. When the males were taken for labor colonies, the balance broke. Slowly, our immune systems weakened. Our emotions dulled. Some even fell into what you'd call comas." Ethan blinked, trying to absorb that. "You're saying your people are sick because your men are gone?" "Not sick," Lyra corrected gently. "Incomplete." Alara appeared in the doorway, holding a small, glowing vial. Her white robes shimmered softly as she entered. "She's right. I've been researching the phenomenon for over a year. Nothing works. No synthetic compounds. No artificial pheromones. But when you arrived, something changed." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. Your scanners say I'm glowing with the cure?" "Not a cure," Alara said, placing the vial on the table. "A catalyst. Your biological energy interacts with ours in ways we didn't think possible. Even your presence tonight restored balance to half the council. That's not coincidence." He rubbed his face. "So what now? You keep me here like some kind of medicine?" Lyra shook her head quickly. "No, never against your will. But we hoped you'd consider staying a little longer, a week, perhaps, to help us stabilize the population." Ethan laughed under his breath. "You make it sound so simple." "It is not simple," Alara said quietly. "It's survival." The words hit harder than he expected. He'd seen planets collapse under worse: greed, war, famine. But desperation like this? It wasn't cruel. It was human. Then Kale entered, silent as a shadow. Her uniform gleamed faintly in the light, her usual authority softened by fatigue. "Governor, he deserves to see it for himself," she said. "No more half-truths." Lyra hesitated. "Kale." "No," Kale insisted. "Show him." Within minutes, Ethan followed the three women through empty streets. The night air was cool, the twin moons watching like pale eyes. They passed dark homes, silent markets, and finally stopped before a medical dome on the city's edge. Inside, rows of glowing beds stretched across the room. Blue-skinned women lay motionless under transparent covers, their breathing shallow, their bodies faintly flickering with unstable light. Ethan froze. "They're alive." "Barely," Alara said. "Without the biological exchange, their systems begin to collapse. They drift between waking and sleep, bodies alive, minds fading." He stepped closer, looking at one of the patients. Young, peaceful, almost childlike. For a moment, he forgot what world he was on. This looks like a hospital back home after a war. Cale nodded grimly. That's what it feels like every day. Ethan turned to them, his voice rough. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Lyra's gaze held his. Because most outsiders run when they see weakness. We needed to know what kind of man you were first. He didn't answer right away. He was thinking about every time humanity had been called fragile, reckless, violent. And yet, here he was, the one thing keeping a dying alien settlement alive just by existing. Alara broke the silence. There's a deeper ritual, one designed to stabilize our energy longer. It involves a stronger connection, more direct contact, but it must be done willingly. Ethan studied her, then the sleeping women again. If I agree, what happens to me? Lyra stepped closer, her tone calm, but serious. You'll feel what we feel. You'll see what we see. It's not dangerous, but it's personal. Deeply, he took a breath, eyes scanning the quiet, glowing ward. You said it yourself. I'm not one to run from impossible situations. Cale's expression softened for the first time. Then maybe there's hope for both our species. The three women exchanged glances, silent understanding passing between them. Lyra extended her hand. Rest for now, Ethan Ward. Tomorrow, we begin the resonance. Ethan looked at her hand. Elegant, glowing faintly with that same strange light. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But one thing was certain. Whatever this resonance was, it would change everything, for him, and for them. Dawn came softly to Nerith. The twin suns rose together, painting the sky in shades of gold and violet. Ethan stood on the balcony of the guest house, staring at the alien city below. Everything looked peaceful, quiet streets, glowing towers, faint mist over the gardens. But he could feel it again, that same hidden pulse under the surface. He hadn't slept. Not because he couldn't, but because something inside him kept humming, like his body was still connected to the energy of the previous night. He didn't know if it was science, magic, or something between, but he knew it was real. The door slid open behind him. Lyra entered, dressed in black and silver ceremonial robes. She looked different, calmer, but also tense, as if this day meant more to her than she wanted to admit. Morning, Ethan said, rubbing the back of his neck. She smiled faintly. Morning, human. I hope you're ready. For what? The part where my brain catches fire. Lyra chuckled softly. Nothing so dramatic. Though you may see things you're not prepared for. Story of my life, Ethan muttered. Soon, Alara and Cale joined them, both wearing similar robes. Alara carried a small crystal bowl filled with glowing oil, while Cale had a case containing instruments that looked half scientific, half ritualistic. Lyra gestured toward the path. Follow us. The resonance chamber is below the city. It's where our ancestors once forged their first connections. They led him through narrow corridors and winding staircases carved into blue stone. The walls glowed faintly with bioluminescent vines that pulsed as they passed, reacting to their presence. Finally, they reached a circular door etched with runes that shimmered when Lyra touched them. The door opened with a low hum, revealing a cavern bathed in shifting blue and white light. At the center was a shallow pool of luminous water, surrounded by smooth stone platforms and soft cushions. The air smelled faintly of minerals and jasmine. Ethan stopped at the edge. This is beautiful. It's older than Nerith itself, Alara said quietly. We believe the planet's core energy flows through here. It strengthens the bond. Cale lit small braziers around the chamber, the smoke forming gentle spirals that danced in the air. The resonance of souls, she said, was once reserved for bonded pairs, lovers, family, or commanders sharing trust before battle. It allows emotions, thoughts, even memories to be exchanged. Ethan looked uneasy. Sounds risky. It is, Lyra admitted. That's why we never perform it with outsiders. Until now. Alara stepped closer, holding out a vial of the glowing oil. This will ease the transition. It calms the mind. Ethan took the vial and sniffed it, faintly sweet, like citrus and metal. You sure this isn't going to fry my brain? Cale smirked. Only if you resist. The resonance works best when the heart is open. Ethan exhaled slowly. All right then, let's do it. They formed a circle around the glowing pool, sitting cross-legged on the cushions. Lyra reached out her hands first, Alara and Kale did the same. Ethan hesitated a moment, then placed his palms against theirs. The warmth hit instantly, not from the air, but from them. A subtle pulse began to move through the circle, a heartbeat that wasn't his, but somehow was. "Close your eyes," Lyra whispered. "Breathe. Let the current find you." He obeyed. The world behind his eyelids turned into color, deep blues, gold streaks, and flashes of white. The sound of water grew louder, then distant, replaced by the echo of his own pulse. Then he felt it, a gentle push inside his mind. It wasn't forceful, just curious. A touch of thought brushing against his own. Lyra's voice echoed, though her lips didn't move. "Do you feel it?" "Yes," he whispered. "Don't speak. Think." Her words vibrated inside his skull like music. Memories began to rise, not his, but theirs. He saw flashes of Kale's memory, standing at the edge of a landing field as ships carried away her people's men. The roar of engines, the smell of dust and fear. A brother waving goodbye, never returning. The pain hit him like a storm, sharp, real, and alive. Then Lyra's memories flooded in, her voice shouting commands as riots broke out in the streets, her struggle to lead a broken population while pretending to be strong. Behind her smile, exhaustion. Behind her authority, loneliness. Alara's turn came next, her endless nights in the lab, hands shaking from fatigue, failures piling up until hope was just a word. The weight of trying to save everyone and failing again and again. Ethan gasped, breaking the rhythm. But the women didn't let go. Their grip tightened, not trapping him, but grounding him. "Stay with us," Lyra's voice whispered inside his head. "Now show us you." His mind opened like a floodgate. Memories of war, fire, screams, smoke. His squad. The last mission that went wrong. The moment he gave the order that saved the colony but cost 3 of his soldiers their lives. The guilt that never faded. They felt it all, his fear, his anger, his grief. But what struck them most wasn't the pain. It was the compassion inside it, the human refusal to surrender to despair. Alara's voice trembled through the bond. "You carry loss like we carry silence. Yet you still fight." Ethan didn't answer. He didn't need to. The connection deepened. The colors around them brightened, gold mixing with blue until the chamber itself seemed to breathe. The energy pulsed stronger, synchronizing their hearts, their breathing, their thoughts. For the first time in years, the 3 women felt whole. Lyra opened her eyes slowly, tears shining like silver. "Your mind, it's unlike anything we've ever felt." Ethan pulled his hands back slightly, breathing hard. "Guess humans aren't as fragile as the galaxy thinks." Kale smiled faintly. "No, you're far more dangerous." The pool beside them glowed brighter, reacting to the energy they'd created. The water rose in small waves, casting light across the chamber walls. Alara watched in awe. "It's working. The energy balance. It's stabilizing the entire settlement." Lyra turned to Ethan. "You've done more in one ritual than our scientists have done in years." He looked at the glowing water and shook his head in disbelief. "I just sat here and felt things." "Sometimes," Lyra said softly. "That's what saves worlds." The resonance ended just before sunrise. Ethan didn't remember falling, but when he opened his eyes, he was lying beside the glowing pool, his breath uneven, his skin cold with sweat. The chamber still shimmered faintly with gold and blue light, slowly fading into silence. Lyra, Kale, and Alara were still there, but something about them had changed. Their eyes glowed softly, their skin brighter, as if their bodies now carried part of his energy. Even the air around them felt charged, alive, like the atmosphere before a storm. Alara was the first to speak. "It worked." The energy wave reached beyond the chamber. "My readings are off the scale." Kale stood slowly, pressing a hand to her chest. "I can feel it. Strength. Clarity. I haven't felt like this in years." Lyra looked down at Ethan, still kneeling beside him. Her voice trembled with wonder. "You did this, human." Ethan sat up, dizzy but alert. "No," he said. "We did this." Alara smiled faintly. "That's exactly the difference between you and most off-worlders. They want credit. You want reason." He rubbed his temple. "So what happens now?" Kale looked toward the stairs leading up. "Now, we face the council. They'll feel this energy, and they'll have questions." Lyra helped Ethan to his feet. Her touch was warm, steady, too steady. He noticed faint light pulsing under her skin like flowing veins of gold. "That normal?" he asked quietly. Alara followed his gaze, eyes wide. "No, that's new." As they made their way back to the surface, the effect became clearer. Everywhere they went, people stopped and stared. The city that had felt tired and dim now shimmered with vitality. The air itself seemed to hum in rhythm with them. A young worker ran past, then froze, staring at Lyra in disbelief. "Governor, your eyes. They shine like the sun's." Lyra blinked in surprise, then smiled faintly. Maybe the suns finally decided to return the favor. Ethan couldn't help but grin. "Looks like you just invented alien caffeine." But the humor didn't last long. The closer they got to the council chambers, the heavier the air grew. The three elder women were already waiting, their silver eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion. "You've disturbed the balance," one of them said, her voice deep and steady. The resonance was not authorized. Lyra bowed slightly. "With respect, Elder Saris, it was necessary. Our people were fading." "Necessary?" another elder hissed. "You performed a forbidden ritual with an outsider." Her gaze fell on Ethan. "A human?" Ethan crossed his arms. "You're welcome." The room went silent. Lyra shot him a warning glance, but the corners of her mouth twitched in amusement. Alara stepped forward quickly. "Please. The data is clear. The human's biofield stabilized our entire energy network. Even those in comas are responding." Kale added, "If we continue the process, it could save everyone." The elders exchanged glances, part fear, part disbelief. Finally, Sarah spoke again. "And what happens when your human leaves? What happens when your hope is tied to something that doesn't belong to you?" Lyra's voice grew firm. "Then we learn from him, and make sure it does belong to us." Ethan exhaled slowly, realizing the truth in her words. What started as one man's rest stop was now a civilization leaning on his existence. He turned to the elders. "I didn't plan any of this. But if my presence helps your people, then let's use it wisely. Just don't make me your miracle." Saris studied him carefully. "You speak like a soldier. I used to be one. That explains the arrogance." Ethan smiled faintly. "That explains the survival." For a moment, the old woman said nothing, then gave a slow nod. "Very well. Continue your experiments. But remember this, human, when you give life to a fire, it will eventually burn something." They left the hall in silence. The warning lingered. Outside, the city pulsed with life again. Alien children ran through the plazas, laughing for the first time in years. Traders reopened their shops. Music returned to the streets. Alara walked beside Ethan, watching the lights above the towers. "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" "The city's heartbeat. It's louder." He listened, and she was right. The hum that once felt faint now thrummed like a living pulse. Kale looked back toward the council dome. "They fear what they don't understand. But this," she gestured at the glowing skyline, "this is proof of what connection can do." Ethan nodded, but something uneasy stirred in his chest. The glow spreading through Lyra's veins, the strange strength in Kale's movements, the air vibrating stronger by the minute. It didn't feel entirely safe. Lyra seemed to sense his thoughts. "Don't worry, human. We control it." He gave her a skeptical look. "Sure about that?" She smiled faintly. "No, but we'll find out together." As night fell again over Nerith, Ethan stood at the balcony once more, watching the alien lights ripple across the city like waves of color. The world below him wasn't dying anymore. It was changing. And somehow, he knew. So as he 3 days passed. And with each sunrise, the city of Nerith grew brighter. Literally. The blue glow that once softly lined the streets now pulsed like living veins through every wall, every tower, every person. The air shimmered faintly, not from heat, but from something deeper, unseen. Ethan walked through the plaza, feeling eyes follow him again. But this time, they weren't filled with curiosity. They were filled with something else. Worship. Wherever he went, the people stopped what they were doing, bowing slightly, whispering in their musical language. Children ran after him laughing, their skin faintly glowing gold instead of blue. He didn't like it. Lyra and Kale followed close behind. Both changed in ways that were impossible to ignore. Lyra's silver hair now carried streaks of gold. Kale's voice, once firm and cold, had become sharper, almost vibrating with energy when she spoke. "This is getting out of hand," Ethan muttered as they crossed the plaza. Your whole city looks like a reactor ready to blow. Kale glanced around. Our people are stronger, faster, happier. Isn't that what you wanted? I wanted balance, he said. This feels like chaos wearing a pretty disguise. Alara met them near the steps of the lab dome, her usually calm face shadowed with worry. He's right, she said. The readings are unstable. The resonance field is spreading far beyond what we predicted. The entire city's energy is synchronizing with Ethan's biopattern. Lyra frowned. Explain. Alara turned her wrist device toward them. Holographic lines appeared, gold and blue waves overlapping. Look, his energy frequency isn't fading, it's multiplying. Every citizen who interacted with him now carries a piece of his resonance. It's contagious. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You're saying I'm infecting you with humanity? Not infecting, Alara corrected gently. Transforming. Kale's tone hardened. If it's making us stronger, why stop it? Alara looked at her, eyes wide. Because uncontrolled resonance leads to collapse. The body burns itself from the inside. Silence filled the room. Ethan felt a cold weight in his chest. So this glow that's making everyone feel alive could kill them, Alara finished quietly. Lyra pressed her hand against the table, thinking, can we reverse it? Alara shook her head. Not without the source. Ethan sighed. You mean me? Kale stepped forward, her voice calm but dangerous. If you leave now, the balance will shatter. The entire settlement will fall back into collapse. And if I stay, he countered, you burn yourselves alive. For the first time, Lyra's composure cracked. There must be another way. There is, Alara said slowly, but it's risky. Everyone looked at her. The resonance can be reset through a purification pulse, a controlled release of the energy back into the chamber where it began. It will break the connection between him and the city, restoring normal levels. Sounds easy, Ethan said. It's not. The process could kill the source. Ethan froze. Kill me. Alara nodded, her voice breaking. Yes. The pulse would rip the energy from your body. There's no guarantee you'd survive it. Kale's jaw tightened. We can't risk him. He's done enough. Lyra turned away, her voice barely a whisper. If we don't, thousands die. The air thickened. No one spoke for several seconds. Finally, Ethan exhaled. Guess it's not much of a choice then, is it? Alara stepped forward quickly. No. You can't decide that yet. I'll keep searching. There might be a safer. Stop, Ethan said gently. You told me once your people were incomplete. Maybe this is what completion looks like, facing what you fear most. Lyra looked at him, her eyes wet with light. You'd give your life for us? For a world that isn't yours? He smiled faintly. I've done worse for people who didn't deserve it. At least this time, it might mean something. Kale clenched her fists. You talk about sacrifice like it's normal. It is, Ethan said quietly. That's what it means to be human. The silence that followed carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Finally, Lyra nodded, her voice steady again. Then we'll prepare the chamber. If you're going to do this, we'll make sure you don't do it alone. That night, the city dimmed for the first time since his arrival. Lanterns flickered out. The hum quieted. It felt like Nerith itself was holding its breath. Ethan stood at the balcony once more, watching the glow fade beneath the stars. His reflection in the glass looked older, tired, but strangely peaceful. Alara's voice came softly from behind him. You don't have to be our savior. He turned slightly, smiling. Too late. You already made me one. Below them, the golden light pulsed one last time, then began to flicker. The countdown to the purification had begun, and somewhere deep below the city, the resonance chamber stirred awake, waiting for the human who had given Nerith its light, and was now ready to pay the price for it. The resonance chamber waited in silence. It felt alive, as if the stone itself was breathing. Blue light rippled across the walls like waves of water, pulsing in rhythm with the beating heart of the city above. Ethan stood at the edge of the glowing pool, stripped of his jacket and fear alike. The golden veins under his skin shimmered softly, brightening with each breath. This is it, he said quietly. The reset. Lyra stood beside him, her expression caught between pride and grief. Kale adjusted the control pylons near the wall, her hands steady though her jaw was tight. Alara knelt by the console, her voice trembling as she explained. The purification pulse will travel through your body and return the resonance to its origin. The energy will flow back into the planet's core. If it works, the the city will stabilize. Ethan smiled faintly. And if it doesn't? Then Nerith dies with you, Kale said bluntly. He chuckled softly. Nice to have options. Lyra reached out, placing a hand over his heart. You've already done enough. No one would blame you if you refused. He met her gaze. I didn't come here to be a hero. I just wanted a place to rest. Guess the universe had other plans. The three women exchanged a look of quiet pain. Then Alara pressed the final sequence on the console. The chamber darkened. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then the pool erupted in light. Not blue this time, but gold. The glow crawled up Ethan's body like liquid fire, and the hum of the resonance grew louder, deeper, endless. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay upright. The energy coursed through him like a storm, burning and freezing at once. Lyra's voice broke through the noise. Ethan, it's too much, stop. He shook his head, teeth gritted. No, I can control it. But control was slipping away. The chamber shook violently. Blue crystal fragments fell from the ceiling. The water churned like boiling metal. Alara screamed over the roar. The energy's not releasing, it's absorbing. He's becoming the core. Kale ran forward, grabbing Ethan's arm. But the instant she touched him, a surge of light threw her back. Lyra caught her before she hit the ground. Don't touch him, Alara shouted. His body's converting the resonance. It's rewriting his cells. Ethan's eyes flared open, glowing bright gold. His voice echoed with strange harmonics. It's not rejecting me, it's choosing me. Lyra stepped forward, tears streaking her glowing cheeks. Ethan, listen. You have to let go. He smiled, tired, peaceful. Humans don't let go, Lyra. We hold on. That's how we survive. The light burst outward, a blinding wave that filled every corridor, every tower, every home of Nerith. The pulse swept through the city like sunrise, dissolving the chaos, balancing the unstable currents. The people fell to their knees, shielding their eyes as the golden glow bathed everything. For a few seconds, there was no sound, only light and the echo of a heartbeat that wasn't theirs. Then, as suddenly as it came, the light faded. When the glow cleared, the chamber was still. The pool shimmered faintly, calm again. Alara stumbled forward. Ethan, no answer. Lyra knelt by the pool, her hands trembling. The water reflected only the blue ceiling, until a faint shimmer appeared beneath the surface. Slowly, a figure rose from the water, not drowning, not dead. Changed. Ethan stood upright, his skin pale but alive, his eyes glowing faintly gold. The veins of light were gone, replaced by a steady radiance around him. Soft, calm, human. You survived, Alara whispered. Barely, he said, voice rough but steady. Guess the universe wasn't done with me after all. Lyra reached him, her hand touching his cheek as if afraid he'd vanish. The resonance, it's gone from us. But the city is alive. You stabilized it. He looked toward the ceiling where faint sunlight broke through the cracks. Then I'd call that a win. Kale gave a short laugh, wiping her eyes. You're insane, human. Probably, Ethan said. But it worked. The city above began to hum again, not the unstable pulse of before, but a steady rhythm, deep and calm. The towers glowed with a soft blue once more. The madness had ended. Lyra turned back to him. What will you do now? He looked around the chamber, then toward the faint light of the twin suns. Maybe I'll finally get that rest I came for. Maybe I'll stay a while. Alara smiled. You know they'll make you a legend. He shrugged. Legends don't sleep much. The three women stood beside him, the quiet sound of water echoing in the chamber. Outside, Nerith bloomed back to life, a city reborn, its people balanced again. And above them all, stories began to spread, about the lone human who walked into a fading alien city and turned it into light. To the rest of the galaxy, he was just another traveler. But to Nerith, he was something more. He was proof that sometimes the smallest spark of humanity could ignite a world back to life. And for the first time in years, Ethan Ward, soldier, wanderer, stranger, finally closed his eyes and rested, knowing he had found what he never realized he was searching for. A purpose.